A firm called Counterpoint Research estimated that iPhone sales in China declined by 24% during the first 6 weeks of this year. I've never heard of Counterpoint prior to today. I would expect the iPhone to lose some market share in China to local companies over time, but it is at best a guess by how much at any particular point in time. Apple's stock price is currently down about 2.7% as of 12 o'clock Central Standard Time today, March 5th, 2024. So it is barely reacting to that research report. Other than that news, I did not see anything that justifies today's stock market decline other than a valuation reset. I previously discussed the need for a valuation reset since the price earnings multiples on the S&P 500 and other major indexes are too high. A valuation reset can occur based on nothing more than the thundering herd seeing unrealized profits in high multiple stocks decline, and then too many head for the exits all at once. I will be up today since interest rates are falling and my 4 brokerage accounts are heavily weighted in bonds whose prices rise when rates decline. I am experiencing so far a net gain in my small stock allocation as well, primarily from what I call bond substitute stock sectors like utilities, pipelines, and equity real estate investment trust stocks. My largest account is at Fidelity, where my current allocation is 83.7% in what Fidelity characterizes as bonds. Those include Treasury bills and notes, CDs, corporate bonds, and Tennessee municipal bonds. The allocation to domestic stocks is only at 10.4%. I will include a snapshot in my next post. The ISM service sector report for February was reported at 52.6% earlier today. Any number over 50 indicates an ongoing expansion. That number was a slight decline from 53.4% in January, and I do not view that decline as significant or meaningful, particularly since the new orders component rose to 56.1% from 55% in January. Also, it is noteworthy that the price component for services retreated to 58.6% from 64% in January, which is at least a favorable trend since service inflation has been a significant contributor to inflation. On another matter, I agree with the concurring Supreme Court justices that the majority went too far in stating that Congress had to enact enabling legislation to implement the insurrection clause in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and they were citing Section 5 of that amendment. That part of the per curiam opinion that was joined in by 5 of the Republican justices was not necessary to reverse the Colorado Supreme Court and consequently should not have been the subject of the decision. The court has held that the 15th Amendment was self-executing in the South Carolina v. Katzenbach decision that can be found at 383 U.S. 301 at page 325, which cites a number of prior Supreme Court decisions. That's relevant because the 15th Amendment was self-executing, even though there is similar language in that amendment to Section 5 of the 14th Amendment. And the Supreme Court held in the 1883 civil rights cases decided shortly after the adoption of the 14th Amendment that the 14th Amendment is, quote, is undoubtedly self-executing, end quote. In other words, it doesn't need congressional action to implement. That citation is 109 U.S. 3 at page 20. I have discussed at great length how the Republican justices who claim to be originalist, textualist, or strict constructionist are far from consistent in using those judicial interpretation standards and are as much activist judges as their liberal counterparts. That part of the Supreme Court decision dealing with Section 5 of the 14th Amendment is not grounded on any conservative judicial approach, but on a results-oriented approach, and consequently part of an activist justice's approach.